Lammas coming up soon, and for those unfamiliar, this holiday occurs at the midway point between the summer solstice and the autumn equinox in the northern hemisphere. And this year in 2020, Lammas is occurring on August 1st, which is coming up real soon. And since I'm in the middle of packing up my apartment for moving to Texas, I probably won't be able to personally have a big Lammas celebration this year. But one thing I can do for this holiday is bake bread, because at its core, Lammas is a time to celebrate the wheat harvest, and honestly, eating carbs is one of my favorite activities. Though I feel that Lammas is kind of an underrated Sabbath, and there isn't as much excitement around it compared to the other pagan holidays. So I thought I'd share a few things about Lammas that you may not know, and some things that I feel make this holiday really awesome. So let's jump right into it. There are many different names for this holiday, and that can definitely make it a bit confusing. But at the same time, the different names actually reveal a lot of fascinating aspects of pagan history. So the oldest name for this holiday is Lunasad, which is Gaelic and is the name used for the celebrations that occurred in Ireland, Scotland, and the Isle of Man. Lunasad is mentioned in some of the earliest Irish literature, and the festival itself is named after the Celtic god Lu. And Lu is a super fascinating deity, and let me know if you are interested in having me make a video about him in the future. Now, Lammas, which is the name most modern Wiccans use, actually shows up after the Christian conversion in Europe. The name Lammas is a contraction of the words loaf, as in bread loaf, and mass, as in Christian mass. So Lammas is actually a traditional Christian holiday. In the Christian faith, people would bake bread from the new wheat harvest, and they would take that loaf to church where it would be blessed. And after the bread was blessed, it might even be used in certain protective rituals. There's a book of Anglo-Saxon charms that said that the Lammas bread should be broken up into 4 bits placed in the 4 corners of the barn to protect the harvested grain. I find this all super fascinating because it's a great example of how paganism and Christianity have intermixed over the centuries. While we don't know when Christians started celebrating Lammas, it's definitely possible that the acts of harvesting and blessing the bread and then using it in a protective ritual might be inspired by earlier pagan celebrations. I mean, that really does sound kind of pagan to me, right? And as a modern pagan, it's kind of weird thinking about the interesting relationship that paganism has had with Christianity. I mean, yeah, it really sucks that many of our pagan ancestors were forcibly converted to Christianity, but at the same time, it's like, thanks for preserving our rituals, I guess? I mean, a large part of what we know about paganism today comes from the fact that the Christians recorded a lot of the folklore traditions and incorporated them into their own religious festivals. Pagans in Northern Europe didn't really write a lot down, so a lot of times we're relying on Christian sources for our information. And what makes the story even more fascinating is that nowadays most Christians have stopped really celebrating Lammas, and now it's the pagans and the Wiccans that are using the term Lammas to refer to their celebrations. So I guess everything is kind of cyclical in that way. There are also 2 more lesser known names for this holiday. Gwyl Awst is the Welsh name for this particular festival, and August Eve is the name that early Wiccans used, but it wasn't until much later that Wiccans started using the term Lammas. So this festival has really gone through a lot of iterations when it comes to different names, different types of people, and different religions celebrating this particular day. So sports are probably not one of the things you associate with Lammas, but there are actually a lot of interesting athletic aspects to this holiday. In the Everyday Book of 1838, William Hone wrote about a Lammas Day sport that was common among farmers near Edinburgh. In this sport, people would build towers out of peat and then put a flag on a flagpole in the center of their peat tower. Then the farmers would go to each other's towers and attempt to level the towers to the ground. And you win by destroying an opponent's tower. However, people were allowed to defend their towers, and so all the farmers were given a horn that they could blow to alert the nearby country folk of the impending attack. And all those people would show up, and it would basically turn into kind of like a big brawl. So I guess this is kind of like a more violent version of Capture the Flag. If there are any Scots watching this video, please let me know if you've heard of this game and if there are any communities in Scotland still doing this. There's also historic pagan athletic games associated with Lunasad called the Taltean Games, and I apologize for that pronunciation. So these were funeral games associated with the history of pre-Christian Ireland. The games were held during the last fortnight of July and culminated with the celebration of Lunasad. Modern folklore sources claim that this game dates back to around 1600 BCE, with some sources claiming it goes even further back to 1829 BCE. The games included the long jump, the high jump, running, spear throwing, boxing, sword fighting, archery, wrestling, chariot racing, and even more events. And I don't know if any modern pagans have thought about reviving these games, but that would be really awesome. If I could plan my ideal Lunasad celebration, I would love to have a day of fun athletic activities that culminates in a big feast where people would bring different baked goods that they made in order to honor the beginning of harvest season. The oldest Irish festival still going on today is called Puck's Fair, and it takes place annually for 3 days on the 10th, 11th, and 12th of August. Every year, a group of people go up into the mountains and catch a wild goat. The goat is then brought back into the town, and the Queen of Puck, which is traditionally a young girl, crowns the goat King Puck. This act signifies that the festivities may begin. The goat is then put into a small cage on a high stand for 3 days, and on the 3rd day of the fair, he's brought down and led back into the mountains. Most scholars believe that the fair's origins are from the Celtic festival of Lunasad. And as Lunasad symbolizes the beginning of the harvest season, the goat is kind of like a pagan fertility symbol. I think it's so amazing that there is a festival still going on today that is most likely inspired by ancient pagan festivities. So I really hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please give it a like, and down in the comments, let me know what you'll be doing to celebrate Lammas this year. And again, thanks for watching. I'll talk to you later. Bye.